back to the Dave and Vinno show, everybody. Vinno, what's going on, bruh?
Fucking lot going on, mate. A lot is going on at the moment, but yeah, I won't delve too much into it right now because you've got a lot that you want to talk about tonight. So
We do. We've got a full slate. But first, we'll do a bit of housekeeping, all right? So now, everyone, you probably noticed we took a step back the last few months and we experimented doing clips. But the editing for each clip, it was taking too much time, it was all our work, and we only ended up really using one clip per show. So now we're going back to full shows. However, we're going to split up the topics so that it's easier for people to skip through if they're not interested in a certain topic. So, for instance, today we're going to give a quick reaction to the voice referendum results, and then we're going to get into the latest news out of the Israel and Palestine conflict. You can go through the timestamps below, and you can skip to the topic that you're most interested in. So, with that said, Vinno, Australia voted no.
yeah,
What's your reaction to that, mate?
obviously, mate, it's pretty disappointing. There's a lot in there, and Indigenous people certainly aren't giving up, which is a good thing. It's frustrating in a lot of ways with how the campaigns were run. We spoke pretty in depth about the no campaign and the yes campaign, their failures and those sorts of things. But I suppose that the big thing that it came down to was people just eating up the bullshit, not looking into things as much as they should have or could have. A lot of people had their minds made up the moment it was put on the table, and then used, and are still using excuses to justify that. The most disappointing thing, in my opinion, is that majority of Indigenous people voted yes, and especially in remote communities that really needed this voice. They voted yes, and ironically, yet again, as it has been throughout our history, white Australia said no. You're not having a say, or you're not. We will speak for you. You're not going to have a voice for yourself and speak for your own communities, and that, to me, is the most frustrating thing. It's history repeating itself. The other frustrating thing is the reaction of people and the ignorance as well, I suppose. It's to use the division argument as the No campaign did. It's saying it's divisive. We are more divided now than we were before, and we are certainly a lot more divided now than if the voice had been put through. The only people that were saying it was divisive were the people that were using it as a political stunt, and their supporters jumped on board and used that as an excuse. I still stand by the fact that the voice at no stage was ever going to affect non-Indigenous people whatsoever, because it wasn't. However, it was drastically going to help Indigenous people, especially the remote communities that I mentioned in the Northern Territory and those places. And now they are still without that voice and that communication with government directly, and they're represented by people that have no understanding of Indigenous culture, no care to understand it, and no real interest. We see this far too often now with companies and corporations and those sorts of things that are jumping on board and waving the Indigenous flag when it suits them, when it makes them look good, but far too often they don't have a genuine interest in improving Indigenous communities or the lives of Indigenous people, or helping to bridge that gap. This was one way for the Indigenous people to be able to come forward and have their say for things that do affect them. Healthcare, education, living standards, all of those sorts of things that could have assisted their communities and helped move forward. And that's the most frustrating part. The other side of it is these people that voted no. I've seen a lot of comments, and I've heard a lot of comments, and people that I've spoken to, and saying, "Oh, we can move forward. We're move forward. We're all Australians," and those sorts of things. And yet, on the other hand, saying when are Indigenous people going to assimilate and integrate into society? Well, why the fuck should any of them integrate when this is the way that they are treated? When it's a very simple request, something very simple, and a way for them to be heard. Because I can guarantee if the shoe was on the other foot, there'd be fucking riots in the streets. But that's lost on a lot of the people that voted no. And I still stand by the fact that there is a large population of the no voters that the vote and the reason for their vote was purely racial. They're the ones that I'm talking about when I said their decision was made up before, or as soon as it had been put on the table, before they'd even read into what it was about. In the moment there was Indigenous attached to it, they were voting no. So, if you're one of those people, please just fucking uppercut yourself. We've had enough of it. We're not moving forward because of people like you. But, democracy is democracy. And yeah, we've got to live by that. But at the same time, it's a democracy that was forced on Indigenous people. And yet they're still being spoken for through that democracy. So.
Yeah. No, look, I completely agree with you. I think, look, there are some positives that can be taken out of it, and I think the negatives we've already spoke on, and you spoke upon there. I mean, the actively telling people not to seek information. If you don't know, vote no. Like it's plain to see. It's the disinformation campaign. It's really sad.
There was that side of it, and then the fact that Anthony Albanese had put it forward.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of people that say, "Oh, this is Albo's plan." It's like, mate, this is over a decade's worth of bipartisan consent. It was actually designed that way so that it wouldn't be a constitutional issue, and that it was pretty much, like a good for both sides solution.
And so that everyone
very, very
can get
sad.
on board.
Yeah.
The thing that cracked me up was Peter Dutton getting up there and trying to take credit for it. I mean, the man's a piece of shit, in my opinion.
It's Peter Dutton, you know what I mean? Like, why Peter Dutton gonna Dutton, right? But positives, ACT, my state, we were the only state that voted yes. You know what I mean? I'm very proud. We're a very progressive state. You hear with a lot of stuff, and again, we've kind of pulled through and pulled our weight there, but it's just never enough here. You know, we're not a state that matters really. We're not one of the big three.
Well, it wasn't enough anywhere. That's unfortunately that's the.
But it's not over. It's not over. There are parts in that constitution that this debate kind of pulled out. So there were people like, look, if it was just about constitutional recognition, I'd be fine with that. But because it's this, this, and this, so to those people, we can go, oh, hey, look, how about this model now? That, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, they will. I know what's going to happen. They will revert back to like a different excuse, and that's just what happens again.
Yep.
But we can, that is proof that there are arguments there that even they'll when it's not a tabled argument and it doesn't matter, they'll agree to, and you can use that against them. But ultimately, it's democracy. We got to take it on the chin. we got to move forward and look for different ways to achieve that, and help one of the most vulnerable people in our society here, the indigenous people of Australia. They're not been listened to. We tried to just make it so that people had to just listen. They didn't have to do anything with what they heard, but they just had to listen when it comes to decisions being made about indigenous people. And again, that was rejected. I think a lot of it's to do with ignorance. There's a lot of willful ignorance. Yes, there is racism, and there's a lot of tribalism. I was surprised just and we'll get into this a bit later, but there are people that will not listen no matter what to one side and the other side. They've picked their teams. We've encountered these ourselves, even in the yes and no stuff before. It's just how it is. It's tribalism. They're saying it's divisive, but they're literally coming from a divisive position. And look, I think there's a bit of clarity here too. I think for what they've lost here in opportunity, I think they've kind of gotten a bit of a mask off now, and they kind of know a bit more what they're dealing with, and which is unfortunate, but at the same time, it's what it is, isn't it? So I support the indigenous people trying to take their movement now in a different direction. Obviously, it's the same goals but a different route. But yes, Australia voted no. What do we've got to, in the aftermath, make sure that we're doing the right things so that people, maybe we can help them understand that they made the wrong choice,
Yeah, and that's the biggest hurdle. Especially the fact that a lot of them, it was never about the issue. It was just about winning or losing. It was the being proud of it getting down and not actually stopping for a second to have a good think about what that meant. It's just a very selfish standpoint. And I think as a country, we should be fucking ashamed of ourselves, because it's 2023 and we're still not even allowing people to be heard when it comes to decisions about themselves. And like I said, the shoe was on the other foot. Holy fuck. The carry on would just be...
It's nearly unimaginable for the shoe to be on. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Yep.
Anyway.
I'm sure there'll be something else next that comes from the indigenous movement that we can talk about and support.
There will be.
And get behind.
Not giving up.
No.
Certainly going to move forward, but there's just going to be... It concerns me in the sense that there is a hell of a lot of disappointed Indigenous people. A lot of the people that I know, uncles and aunts and those sorts of things, that, it has been thrown in their face after it. And yet then in 12 months' time, when they want to wave the flag and, be all about Indigenous people, they'll do that. And it happened throughout the No campaign as well. People thinking or acting like they gave a shit for the purpose of it. Saying, it's not going to benefit them, it's not what they want. And talking, once again, speaking for them. Like... It's just the ironies.
I do think the likes of Lydia Thorpe and some of that crowd did a lot of damage as well.
Oh yeah,
because they put a face to it, so that some people that were like, I support Lydia Thorpe and I think she has the Indigenous people's best interest at hand. I think I'm going to side with Lydia here. This must be a ruse, or this isn't going to help its point. Whatever it was. I think there were some good faith people that follow Lydia Thorpe and that movement, and I just think it's a shame because the vote was it wasn't antithetical to that movement at all. It wouldn't have affected it in any way. It's just a bit of progress, and people again letting the perfect get in the way of that. Very sad. But look, here's another thing. Indigenous people, you look around the world. We're going to talk about it a bit later here. And even Irish people, it took us 700-800 years to get to a stage, you know what I mean? And it's a long haul, but your day will come. You know, it will come, but you have to keep it alive, and you got to, you know, win hearts and minds, no matter how hard it is. That that's democracy, and I think there is a way forward, and I'm positive about the future because as um this closes one door for the moment, but it also it allows people now to focus on different things. Yeah. But yeah,
Anyway, moving on. You wanted to talk about this for the last since it's kicked off.
yeah.
Got pretty heated about it and didn't want to talk to start with, and I can understand that. But
Yeah.
Israel and Gaza, mate. Fill me
Yeah,
in.
so like, and this happens all the time, and I get mad emotional with not just this subject, but with subjects like it, and yeah, but we'll kick into it. So usually when I talk about Israel and Palestine, the conflict there, no matter what the solution is you table, you're gonna anger one side, sometimes both sides, and no one's satisfied, and the carnage continues. That's just how it is. Now, look, please know, anyone watching this, know that we're coming at this in good faith, and we're open to discussion in the comments, and we appreciate all, you know, good faith discussions on the topic. If you want to have a bigger chat about it, please come on the show and let's do it. You know, one of the biggest issues in this conflict, and any conflict really, is when people stop talking. And my request would be to listen to our discussion fully before jumping down there angrily into the comment section. But, you know, with that said, if your view is that Israel shouldn't exist, that it's not a legitimate country, and that it should be destroyed and wiped off the face of the earth, or pushed, you know, from the river to the sea, this might not be the discussion for you. You know, it might not be. And likewise, if you think Palestinians don't deserve a free state, or that Israel should raise Gaza and be done with them, you're not going to be happy with me here either. You know, my position on Israel and Palestine is the same as it was before October 7th, on October 7th, and to this day. We can get into arguments about the past, whether it's 1947 or the 9th century BC, to decide who's the rightful people to call this region their homeland. But in all honesty, it's today that matters, and the future. I mean, I'm happy to have that discussion. We can go back in time if you want. If people really want to do that. I just don't think it's helpful, and it loses the focus of what matters, which is today and the future for Palestinian and Israeli people. So my opinion,
Let's have it.
Yeah, in my opinion, the most pragmatic way towards peace, and it's not a new one, is a two-state solution. That I don't think there is any future in that region at all without Israelis and Palestinians. There can be no solution to this that displaces or drives one of these people out of their homeland. So again, both people deserve to have a free state where they can practice their traditions, their culture, and raise their children in peace. I mean, Palestinians are just as the Palestinian children are just as deserving of a safe place to live as any Israeli child, or any child of the world, for that matter. I mean, the future of our world is theirs. It is theirs. The future belongs to the children, and you know, it breaks me heart when you see any child in danger, or as we've seen in the past few weeks, just massacred, mutilated, or burned to death. Like, it's just soul destroying when you see a father walk through rubble in Gaza holding the lifeless body of his little girl. You know, and it's just as bad and soul destroying as it is seeing a mother and daughter burned to death in Israel, frozen together with fire in their last embrace. Like, the fear they must have felt is unimaginable, and an absolute disgrace that it's par for course in these conflicts. The leaders of both countries and both peoples need to find a way to make sure that children, they're not inheriting the barbarism and the death cult ideology of their fathers. So before we get into this, again, I'm for the two-state solution for both people, and an end to this bloody nonsense. Like,
yep,
that's my position. I guess we could probably just start at October 7th. So pro-Palestinian folks, get ready to hate me for the moment. But stick with me, right? Stick with me. So 2.5 weeks ago, October 7th, it was like 6:30 in the morning. Hamas terrorists launched a surprise attack on Israel. it was attacked by land, air, and sea. Hamas fired, they claim, like over 500 rockets. They're still firing rockets to this day. And what that did, it was activated Israel's air sirens, their Iron Dome missile defense. They launched rockets at civilian and military targets, causing like devastation anywhere. Anywhere that they weren't intercepted by the Iron Dome. Like they're very low accuracy, these rockets, and as we've seen with the hospital bombing recently, sometimes misfire and land on their own side of the border. Now, while this is happening, Hamas also launched an invasion into Israel by land, air, and sea. Hamas were able to overtake a number of military targets and bases, as most Israeli defense forces and the IDF were celebrating Yom Kippur. But yeah, they ran through there. They slaughtered soldiers, beheaded them, took some hostages. But after that, Hamas then, most of them on motorcycles and trucks, they stormed into nearby towns and kibbutz, and which are little like communist colonies that they do these times a year, and again start mercilessly killing innocent Israeli civilians and enacting what was a disgusting and total medieval massacre on whatever people they came across. This included murder, rape, beheadings, burnings of innocent people, men, women, children, mothers, fucking the elderly. They took hostages, which mainly consisted of civilians, again, women, children, the elderly. Most of the footage we have is from Hamas. I've seen footage taking them, dragging innocent people out of their homes, into cars, onto the back of trucks, motorbikes, and bringing them back to over the border to Gaza. It's horrific scenes. It was later confirmed that they even promised the militants money in apartments for every hostage they took. It doesn't stop there. They went with the aid of paragliders and enacted a complete massacre at a music festival there for peace. Just fucking slaughtering and frightening, gunning civilians and gunning them down mercilessly. Just a complete and utter detestable murder fest. The people that were able to escape by car, they were met with roadblocks where Hamas dragged them out of their cars, brutally murdered them all over the street. You're like over 260 people dead, devastating. And when you see scenes then of Hamas parading the mangled body of a woman in the back of a truck through Gaza with her legs unnaturally stretched behind her, and you see people cheering and spitting and attacking this tortured body of a woman, just absolute barbarism. There's video of them dragging like a handcuffed woman through the streets who's bleeding through her underwear and stuffing her into the back of the car. All the while there's crowds screaming, "God is great," Allahu Akbar around her and celebrating her like a trophy. This is horror. Look, we can't get into all the horrible footage that's came out, most of which has come from Hamas themselves. Recently, Israel allowed 100 international journalists to view the footage for themselves so they could independently confirm this fucking atrocity. More and more is coming out, showing the brutality, the absolute unjustifiable medieval massacre that these scumbag terrorists committed. And even to this day, they're still firing rockets into Israel and trying to justify it and celebrate it. And on top of that, as they waited for the Israeli response, they hid behind civilians in Gaza, using them and the captured Israeli civilians as human shields. Armies are supposed to protect people. They're not supposed to use people for protection. It's cowardly and disgusting. And now, the response from Israel. So
just
Israel
quickly on that,
the way
there's been international... some of the prisoners are international, aren't they? There's...
Oh, you've got a heap of Americans. You've got people from all over the world. It was indiscriminate.
Yeah,
they've released 4 hostages right now at the moment, 2 elderly women.
This is one of the big reasons, apart from the treaties, that America is getting involved, is because of the kidnapped people. Yeah, and they're
if you're over 200, over 200 now. It's an absolute situation. And of course, look, now we got Israel. Oh man. Israel, they're going to respond like they always do. You know, and in fairness, like most countries in the West, Russia, Asia, Middle East, Africa, they do over the last 100 years, which is heavily bombing targets And if you know Gaza, it's a fucking, it's one of the most densely populated places on planet Earth. You know, like, and I will say in fairness, because I have to get this out, in most cases they're giving warnings to people to leave buildings and areas before they hit the target. They send text messages, they drop leaflets, they launch what are called knock bombs, which is basically a bomb that strikes the top of a building and just makes a loud noise and warns people to get out of the building. None of this is perfect. And we got to remember, there is no, listen to me now, there's no moral equivalence with purposefully targeting civilians and accidental collateral damage. I hate saying that, because the results are the same. Innocent men, women and children blown to pieces, mutilated, burned to death. So far, they're killing 3 times as many Palestinians as Israelis were killed by Hamas. They've stopped electricity and water going into Gaza. The blockade's just still there, but it's incredible now. It's only going to cause more innocent people to die in a torturous fashion, which is, you know, dying from lack of water and food is just unbelievable. People will be like, oh, but Hamas dug up water pipes coming from North Africa. And that's true. Like, Hamas made a video celebrating that $100 million worth of infrastructure of water pipes coming from the north into Gaza. They dug up the water pipes and they made videos of them making rockets out of the pipes. But again, people, that is Hamas. And regardless, there's missiles that they launch into Israel, most of which will be intercepted by the Iron Dome or the Iron Beam now. But all that affects Palestinian people now. They're suffering for that. Hamas is now stopping people from leaving areas that Israel is telling them to go. So there's nothing these Palestinian people can do. They're sitting ducks. It is hell on earth there. Israel have now positioned their army for the last 10 days to invade North Gaza. They're asking people to leave to the south, which would be doable if people were allowed to leave, but they're not. The sheer amount of people that would need to leave for that to work without killing people is just impossible. It's 10 days now, so hopefully they're doing everything they can to get out, to get south. But I know that we've seen aerial footage of Hamas blocking stuff. They even came out with a statement saying, we will stay in our homes. So, oh man, it's just unbelievable. They gave them 24 hours 10 days ago to leave, but so far there must be some intervention that's stopping them. Hopefully the US and Qatar and different governments are pleading with Israel, just please do not go in yet. We've got hostages now, and God, man, like, I would love it if I know what they want to do. They want to clear the civilians, as many as possible, into the south so they can invade, destroy Hamas infrastructure and tunnels, make their way down south, and then slowly let people back into the north that they've cleared so they can go in down south and take out Hamas. Now, brutal, hell on earth destruction. I wish they could just send in commandos to do it. Of course, that'd be so much. Like, Israeli forces are going to die either way going in there. It's hard to fight a guerrilla warfare with the tunnels Hamas have set up and with the human shields and the civilians they're going to fucking encounter. The innocent people that are going to die if that happens is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. You'll see IDF getting captured and tortured, and you'll see the IDF fucking moving through a force and leaving in their wake dead civilians. So what happens now? What do we do? Now here's where I'm going to piss people off. So I truly believe before any peace, what happens now is the hostages have to be freed, and Hamas has to be dismantled, destroyed, and brought to justice. Look, I'm told by a lot of people, but you know, Gazans are not Hamas, and we need to make sure that we're differentiating between them and the civilians of Gaza. But I think what's most important right now, what's more important than us making that differentiation, is that Gazans have to differentiate themselves from Hamas.
Yep.
Gazans need to rise up and they need to rid themselves of Hamas. Hamas is counterproductive and antithetical to a Palestinian free state. Hamas and the leaders of Palestinians in the past have failed their people.
It becomes complicit, doesn't it? When you've got this terrorist organisation there, the result is, unfortunately for them, being killed by Hamas or an invading force going after them. And like you said, you need to differentiate yourself from the group. Which, I mean, it's easy for us to say here, but at the end of the day, that's what would need to happen. That's where they can help themselves.
Yeah, I mean, like, how do you do it? I mean, what's worse? You know, is it the IDF coming in or is it Hamas? You've got to. That's what they're. Right now, I think this is the worst case scenario for them. And I think. Now, look, it's not all them. They have to get rid of Hamas, that's true. But I think, like Hamas being antithetical to a Palestinian free state, I also believe Benjamin Netanyahu and his Likud party are now unlikely to be an arbiter for peace, as shown by their complete and utter ham-fisted response, the lack of care for Palestinian casualties, no matter how ethical they feel their warnings are before bombings. They're just tearing through people. Israel was sick of Netanyahu and Likud before October 7th. They're protesting his judicial overreach for months. And, you know, a more progressive government is more likely to be a party of peace, as there was in the past. Now, Palestinians have to move after Hamas to a peace movement. They need to work on rejoining peace deals with Israel, with the mission being a two-state solution, in my opinion. Look, Hamas and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and through, like, they've rejected peace at least, and a Palestinian free state at least 4 times. The most recent of which would have been Yasser Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas. They walked away from a peace deal that would have given them 100% of Gaza and 94% of the West Bank. They were going to make deals that even included East Jerusalem as their capital. They would have had a safe corridor between the two land masses. They would have had Israel cease settlements on Palestinian borders and in Palestine. And for any settlements that weren't able to move, there would be a meaningful and equitable land swap, to be fair. Israel would still hold sovereignty over the Jewish quarters of Jerusalem, and there would need to be concessions on both sides for it to work. To Israel's credit, and it's going to piss off people, that they've accepted that in the past. Israel left Gaza in 2005. They said, they put their hands up and they left, and they said, "Yous do with this, you know, elect your own government." Sadly, they elected Hamas, and Hamas has been there since. And there's still a lack of Gazans and Palestinians as a whole to condemn Hamas overseas at these protests. They will not condemn them, which is sad, but they need to. Again, oh man, what do you do? Like, the leaders of the Palestinian movement, they reject it and in favor of terrorism and violence. And then again, they do that, and then Israel responds with tyrannical, iron-fisted bombings. Hamas should take this free state deal, or Hamas need to be gone. They won't. They're from the river to the sea folk. But whoever the Palestinians choose, then they have to work towards a two-state solution. And when they get it, instead of investing their money in rockets to attack civilians and building tunnels and shit so that they can attack the IDF,
invest in infrastructure and be sustainable themselves.
Schools, education, healthcare, you know, and start build like Ireland did after we got our free state. I grew up in a free state in Ireland, right? And we were able to reclaim our culture. We were able to speak Irish, have Irish road signs again. You know what I mean? Like, we were able to just in peace practice what it is to be Irish, and there was a lot of concessions that needed to be made for that, but it's all worth it. Okay? I want for Palestinian kids and Israeli kids what I have, what you have, and what most people watching will have, which is just a peaceful place where you can open up a shop, or you can go to school in peace. You can just walk down the street without having to hear an air siren, or without having some fucking militarized border making it hell for you. Right now is not good for the Palestinian people, and I think a lot of it has to do with the government that they chose, and support a lot of them, sadly. But yeah, for this to work at all, both sides have to make a lot of concession. There has to be a binding commitment between the two states to renounce As soon as they decide on the two-state, they have to renounce future land claims and a guarantee that violence will not be permitted against civilians within either sides of the borders. Look, it's not going to please everyone, and there is no solution that I've seen tabled that will. But when Palestinians and Israelis care more about the future of their children than they do about killing each other, there'll be peace. Hopefully that day soon.
Yeah. It's going to get a lot messier, I think, before we...
It's not over.
No, it's still going on.
Right now, it's
the hour.
Thursday night, everybody, the 26th of October. By the time we get this out, it could be Israel could launch a land invasion into Gaza. They could... and that's just going to be hell on earth. Release the hostages, march fucking Hamas towards Israel with their hands up, or with their hands up in one way like this or like that, whatever it is. Let them tell it out.
Just don't have civilians in front of them. Yeah.
Oh man, look, don't get me started on that. And I just fucking hate that. And all this talk of war crimes from Israel. Yes, war crimes from Israel, but war crimes from Hamas. Hamas are subject to the same international laws as Israel is. And there's war crimes galore, all right? But when the dust settles here, no matter what happens, and I fucking hope to God it's not what right-wing Israelis want. I hope to God it's not what fucking... I've been so let down by the far left at the moment, and they basically embraced the genocidal fucking ideology of Hamas. And same with right-wing Israelis. They've genocidal ideologies too. But I'm hoping the centre can just meet like they have before. They came so close to two-state solutions. Like I just spoke about before, that would have been great. It would have been a fantastic starting point for both people, you know. We're already starting to normalise, and we're normalising relations with Egypt and a lot of North African countries, Jordan. They're close with Saudi Arabia here. All that's dusted now, okay? But whatever happens here for the children of the world, look back at the burnt children in Gaza, the burnt children in Israel, and just fucking cop onto yourselves. It's fucking disgraceful. There's no there's no flag. There's no flag worth dragging a woman through the streets in her bloody underwear and cheering for it. There's no flag worth that. There's no flag worth fucking thousands and thousands of Palestinians dead. There's no flag worth that. Okay, we have to come together for peace. And fuck, that's all. It's not just the flag. That's all I want for them.
It's not just the flag in this circumstance, and like you said, committing atrocities and then claiming, God is great and all that. The religious side of it is extremely pathetic, I suppose. Just trying to watch what I say to a degree there, because it's contradictory to their teachings and what their religion is supposed to be about, and yet here they are, still living in medieval times with the acts that they're committing, and claiming that they are a religion of peace, whilst beheading people and, like you said, dragging people out of their homes and murdering them in the street. Like, fuck off with it.
There's no moral equivalence to targeting civilians and accidentally killing them while you're targeting terrorists. It's not the same.
No,
none of it's great. None of it's good. The end result is dead people who should be able to live in peace. But yeah, and I can see, why you were so pissed off and angry about it, and why you didn't want to talk about it earlier. Well, interesting as that would have been, it was evolving. It was evolving.
Yeah, it was happening so quickly.
Because I always go one side to the other.
The scary thing now is the international spotlight that's on it as well, and the fact that America has warships in the region, and China has now just started moving. They sent six ships over into the area.
I think they were scheduled to go there.
They were,
and I think they're just repositioning their stance on it there. It's good that they're there, though, I will say, because we need. I do think they're rational actors. Okay, I do think that, and I'm not a fan of China, but I don't think they're there for that.
What concerns me,
regional actors.
is the tensions within a lot of these international players at the moment.
Yep.
Having a lot of military assets in the area. In the past, that has never ended well. And it's concerning in that aspect that it's a hot zone. There's a lot of tension in that area, and then having other nations come in that have already got pre-existing tensions happening there.
Well, it's already happening, right? There's external actors from the region getting involved now. You have Syria.
I'm talking about the surrounding
Lebanon.
area at the moment, like with not just indirect borders with Israel and Gaza and all of that sort of stuff. I'm talking about the other ones because that is a different side of things altogether.
Well, there's a lot of proxies, right?
There is a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Well, so Iran, Syria, Lebanon, they're the actors that we got to worry about getting involved. There's already some skirmishes on borders and attacking bases and airways at the moment. That could escalate. The reason that there is a warship there from America and Germany's coming in too is because they want to act as a deterrent for these countries getting officially involved. And then again, who is Iran? They're with Russia.
Yep.
So Russia, Iran, and then you've got America, NATO. Man, I just hope that's what I'm hoping.
We're sending forces over to
explode.
The ADF.
Yeah, we are.
Is
and we should. Here's the thing, all right? Defense pacts are great. Defense pacts work, and they're deterrents for small countries getting demolished by bigger countries.
Yep.
So the likes of NATO, AUKUS, I love all that shit. I think it's great. People coming together, unions, and making sure that, okay, look, we're going to have a unified defense here. I think it's important because otherwise the bigger country can just always act with impunity and flatten them. The reason Israel right now hasn't raised Gaza is because of America and because of they don't want other areas get involved. They're always towing the line of what can we do, what can we get away with. Yeah. They got to gauge public opinion, and I do think the likes of Joe Biden right now is doing a lot of. He's worked out getting aid in there is not enough, but you can know he's behind now, trying to figure out a ceasefire, trying to make sure that Israel isn't. He even said it. He's like, we've been here before after 9/11, and we made a lot of decisions out of anger, and a lot of mistakes were made, and they're trying to speak with Israel because they got Israel's back. They've got no matter what goes down, they're going to have Israel's back, right? But they have a duty of care now because they're the United States that they have to try and behind scenes go, all right, look, that's enough for the moment. You know, we have to try it. I'm
talking from experience there too. Like,
exactly. They have fucked up. Yeah.
You only have to look at the history of the Middle East wars with America.
He's 150 years old.
Oh,
the man,
But
I know
even Afghanistan
yeah.
and that, like the years and years, the decades that went on for. Well, I'll say decades.
And to no avail.
Yeah, and with no result. So you've got to look at that, and it's good that he's speaking from that experience rather than them just hiding it away and trying to ignore it. And speaking to it and just going, look, yeah, we've been here. Let's not make these heated decisions, these irrational ones. Saying that, if the attack was on America, I reckon they'd be straight back in there.
Or anyone. Russia. If Russia got if that happened, if the Chechens or the Dagestanis launched that type of attack like happened in the past, they'd go in, they level the place, they take out the leadership, and whatever's left they'll work with.
Yep.
And now, like the Chechens are like part of their military now.
Yeah.
And there's still a Chechen movement that's anti that and all, and wants their own thing and all, but they stamped that right out. The Chinese with the Uyghurs, and like everyone does this. America, everyone does this. In the Middle East, they do it. When ISIS wanted to have a caliphate and reestablish the fucking Ottoman Empire borders and shit, Syria didn't want any of that shit. Fucking Assad did some fucking. He leveled some other fucking places. With the help of Russia, America went in there dropping Moabs and shit. Like,
Yeah.
there are other possibilities. Right now, everyone thinks that it's going to be status quo. That they'll raise Gaza, they'll do some horrible shit, and then it'll go back to the way it was. That can happen. There's a possibility that dust clears and we have a two-state solution. There's also, what if Israel gets overrun and there's a mass genocide of the Israelis and the Jewish people? That can happen.
Oh, it
That
could.
might happen. That could happen. What happens the other way then? What if Gaza, West Bank, they raise it and say, nah, that's it. We're ethnically cleansing the place. And then you have to completely look at it different again. Same if Israel is destroyed. So that's why my opinion is, look, the closest and the most pragmatic, speaking pragmatically, the closest and the more realistic way forward is a two-state solution. I can't see it any other way. And the sad thing, these people are cousins.
Yep.
You know, they are related by their ancient DNA. They are related by their Abrahamic ideologies. It's just so fucking sad. And here's the truth: every little baby there, it's the same. It doesn't. There's no kid more important or deserving of peace. There's 1,000 things we can talk about. I could go for hours and hours and hours. We can go back.
I'd be interested to hear what other people have to say. Like anyone in the comments to see what the discussion is, what the thought is, because I know you were saying your frustration with the far left and their stance on it.
Celebrating it, paragliders in their profile pictures and going to, you know what I mean, like celebrating particularly the massacre.
Once again, I think that comes from a very ignorant position and just following a trend as what tends to happen in these circumstances.
But they're tying it in with the indigenous movement and everything,
which is fucked.
Can you imagine what happened if they were to convince indigenous Australians to maneuver and own the tactics of a Hamas, or to start bombing or massacring people? How much they would how further back it would drive the movement.
It's
this from the land, from the river to the sea, always was, always will be. Like trying to make the start of that is
once
about
again
driving people into the river.
Speaking for indigenous
and
people,
a lot
and trying to make it all about them. Yeah.
Here's another thing. A lot of these people are white Australians I'm seeing doing this. Settlers.
That's what I'm saying.
How would you like it if it was your mother being dragged through the streets back to a compound? You know, how would you like it, settler? You know? Oh, do not get me started. Don't get me started. But here's, at the same time, when people are desperate, they do desperate things. They're driven they're driven into the hands of despots and demagogues. When people are afraid, they'll believe anything. It's the same with right wingers. You know what I mean? And fucking neo-Nazis.
Well, then you get the propaganda
lost.
train rolls in, man, and a lot of these leaders and are experts at it. They've learnt from the best through Goebbels' teachings from back in World War II, and they've studied that, and they know how to get their message across and get followers and break people's thinking down to the point where they're just followers. So it's
the tribalism we spoke with at the start.
It is.
There's America bad and America good, and then whatever it goes, that's all they give a shit about, and they're not willing to have the discussion. I'd love to have the discussion, but all you get from them is fucking talking points. Oh my God, on October 7th, I was like, I'd been talking to people about this, about the whole conflict. It's part of me. Like, my dad was a fucking a peacekeeper in the Irish Army on the Lebanon-Israel border during that shit. You know what I mean? And it's so it's always, as a kid, I've been aware of that, you know, and I've been fascinated with it, and I the Palestinian people have been through hell. They've been through hell, and they're oppressed, and they're fucking, the blockade has been disgusting, and the West Bank and Iran, and I just want for them what we all enjoy.
Yep.
Same with Israelis. And there's people that are on both sides that are completely antithetical to that. Wave your Palestinian flag. Be for Palestine, please. But condemn the thuggery, the terrorism, the massacres, and point them towards a peace movement. You know what I mean? Like what we've seen accomplished by these things. They say it's an apartheid state, but in an apartheid state, Nelson Mandela didn't go and push the whites from the fucking into the sea. They didn't have that. That was not the ideology that the world fell in love with. When Gandhi peacefully marched his people towards the salt mines, that was so powerful. We saw the British and the way they reacted to their peaceful protesters. Martin Luther King and Selma. I could just keep going on. The peace movement is powerful, and it will get people on your side, and you can show your oppressor that what they are doing is unjustified, completely unjustified. That's how you do it. But right now, you lose the moral fucking high ground. They've pushed, and there is peace movements within there that are now pushed back even further. And I just hope, through clearer heads, I hope Israel gets rid of Netanyahu and Likud, just like Ehud Barak, that they could come in and propose a good two-state solution. I hope the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank or particularly in Gaza, get rid of Hamas. I'm even happy for the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, to take over. Even though it's problematic there, I still think that they'd be a better arbiter for peace. And just come together, people. Please, just fucking, we can keep fighting, but one day you have to pass down those myths to the kids, and then you're just going to watch your fucking kids tear each other apart, and their grandkids, and it's just so silly. We've been so close to having to establishing some sort of peace there, and every time it just gets, someone walks away from the table and they just fuck it up for everybody. But yeah.
But we'll
keep going for days, but I think
we'll definitely do an update.
Place.
We'll do an update as things progress a little bit more in the coming days or weeks, depending on how quickly it eventuates. But as we said, if you're keen or you've got thoughts on it and you want to have a chat to us, do it in the comments. Send us an email. I can come on the show if you want. Have a chat.
Please come on the show. Yeah.
So, yeah. Get involved.